Hello and welcome back. My name is Tuxedo Ian, and we are getting back into our playthrough of Book of Hours. This will be part 12. We are still in autumn, getting ready to get into the winter fairly soon. We've got a few new skills, we've opened up a couple new rooms, so let's dive back into it and see what we've got going on today. Much is taken, much abides. House furnishings are sometimes unique, resources are not. If you destroy a resource, you can always get a replacement eventually. So basically anything that's a thing usually can be replaced. If it's an item, it can usually be replaced, but a comfort cannot. Comforts are forever. Everything is remembered, Hush House endures. Welcome back, Librarian. Alright, so let me just click for a second here. Okay, so we had started, we were cataloging these last few solar books that we have, and what I'll do, since we have some more books up here, I'll go ahead and move those down to our library area. That way we can go ahead and get all of these cataloged today using that maladied core. And we have some fog. So one thing I would like to do while I'm thinking about it is we do have the fog, so we can use this to see what all we can craft with our various moon skills we have. So right now that would be Hill and Hollow, Inks of Containment, Magaphine Mysteries, Ornoscopy, Pearl and Tide, Rhymes and Remembrance, Sand Stories, Sharps, and Wolf Stories. So, okay, so Hill and Hollow allows us to craft a salt sign. Use mud to trace a sigil of the Silvered Knight. Hill and Hollow with Prentice level moon creates a salt sign. For a scholar level recipe, if I trace the sign on an egg, I can hatch something eyeless but pulsing with potential. Well, something to keep in mind for later. For inks of containment, we can make some catwink. Brew a minor ink with virtue against vermin. Inks of containment with Prentice level moon creates catwink. Or for a scholar level recipe, if I mix this with a beverage, I'll mix a dark liquor that is also a precursor to a great ink. Magaphine Mysteries makes Eigengrau. Distill a kind of possibility. Magaphine Mysteries with Prentice level moon creates Eigengrau. For a scholar level recipe, crush a flower in and mix a pale and chilling draught. Ornoscopy. Bittersweet certainty. Find a chilly insight in moonlight. Ornoscopy with Prentice level moon creates bittersweet certainty. For a scholar level recipe, add a lens and focus that moonlight into a silvery ink of revelation. Pearl and Tide makes Eigengrau. And if I add a liquid, I can strengthen it into a silvery ink of revelation. Rhyme and Remembrance makes a midnight mark, which we've already discovered. Concentrate nocturnal resonances with a careful sigil. For a scholar level recipe, if I add an egg to the soak, I'll hatch something mischievous and silvery. Sand Stories creates Catwink. Brew an ink that will rouse regret in rats. For a scholar level recipe, if I add an egg, I'll hatch something mischievous and silvery. Sharps creates a midnight mark. Concentrate nocturnal resonances with a careful sigil. If I use this on remains, I can render something darkly leathery and chillingly powerful. And finally, Wolf Stories also makes a midnight mark. And again, for scholar level, if I use remains, I can render something darkly leathery and chillingly powerful. So, let's see what else we have here. We have... Also, this gives us 3 knock. So let me find a desk that takes knock here real quick. I believe that's going to be our desk here. Yes. So our desk Ambrose. So we can slot the fog in and slot in our shaft. And let's see, what do we have that has knock? We have Edict's Liminal and Lockworks and Clockworks. Edict's Liminal creates Secret Threshold. Call on the lesser names of the Chancel to hallow a new threshold. For a Scholar level recipe, if I add liquid, I will brew a powerful knock toxin. Or a little ways for knock. And by the way, Scholar means we have to have at least 10 of that principle, whereas Prentice is just having 5. Lockworks and Clockworks gets us an Amethyst Ampoule. Blend acids for a paradoxical knock ampoule. For a Scholar level recipe, if I add glass, I'll create a knock alloy of interest to the most ambitious of clockmakers. That's what we can do with those. And while I'm thinking about it, we will also do some exploring here because we do have some scale ability here. We will check. So, Coil and Chasm, we already knew made a Bisclaver, it's not. Hill and Hollow, we don't have enough yet to make that. We would need something with more. And then let's see, what else do we have that has scale? Pentiments and Precursors would make a Bisclaver, it's not. Wolf Stories, we don't have enough yet. Is there anything else we can try at this point? Moth. Let's see. I don't think we have anything with enough moth that we can do anything with yet. Same with Rose. Oh, actually. No, we don't have... Let's see. I think we can use Rose at the telescope here. We can use our occult scrap and our fet. So with Sand Stories, we can make a salt sign. Use salt to trace a secret sigil of desert thresholds. With Pearl and Tide, again, make a salt sign. Use salt to trace a sigil of night travel and sunset sound. And Sky Stories gets us a confounding parable. Let the wind sounds gradually recall a subtle memory. Okay, so now we've got those unlocked. Don't think we can do anything with Fear because we already used those for Savage Hymn. We can unlock... Let's see. Okay, so we have Sky. We can use our Faust. Okay, so Lockworks and Clockworks with the Faust and the Occult Scrap. It doesn't give us quite enough Sky to do anything. By Savage Hymn. Still, it doesn't give us enough Sky to do anything. Oronoscopy makes a Wistful Air with 5 Sky. For a Scholar level recipe, carve the song into wood to enchant an instrument. Let's see, do we have anything else? We have Sky Stories. Make a Wistful Air, recall a sweet and sorrowful song. And Watchman's Paradoxes is not going to be quite enough to get there. Alright, I think that's all we can really do for the moment with those. So let's go ahead. So we're working on this here. Let's see, what rooms do we have available? We need, okay, that's Timothy. That's going to be either Denzel or Mrs. Kill. That's going to be Mrs. Kill or a barber. Denzel or Mr. Kill. We could open up the abandoned bedroom today. Because we can use the fog to get somebody some moon. So I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to get Mrs. Kill. Actually, we'll use Mr. Kill for this. Mr. Kill always enjoys a chance to catch up with me. Can always spare a few hours to help a friend. And then we will go ahead and start resting at Whist. Oop. Start the rest first. Then add the shilling. So we will talk to Mr. Kill about the fog, more useful than one might expect, especially in Britain. As right now we don't really have any Knock or Moon books that would be able to get to with that. Yeah, 12 Moon is still quite a bit beyond us with only level 2 and 3 skills. So we will talk to Mr. Kill about the fog and give him 3 Moon. And then we can come down here to the pantry. And we can give him some mackerel. Or we could give him Eigengrau and some pickled mushrooms. Let's see what else we have here that might have. We could give him the pickled pilchards. Yeah, we'll do that. We will give him the pickled pilchards, which will get him to 5. We have finished cataloging our first Dawn book here on Matthias and the Amethyst Imago, Transformation, an account of an occult romance. A certain Iavogos claims to have written this in a single night as part of his initiation into the Alpine branch of the House of Lethe, the order of immortals that would not pledge themselves to any hour. This is 6 Forge, and it has the 5th Eye curse. This is a contamination on a book. Someone has unhelpfully placed a curse which may tear open the unwilling eye of the soul. This contamination can affect your Fet and Faust. You can remove it with a skill that's effective against curses and at least 7 heart. So we would need to use something that's effective against curses. I don't know that we have a curse. Let me see here. There's infestations, theoplasma, corruption. Yeah, so we don't have anything that can get rid of curses just yet. However, curses are lucky in that they will not spread from... They can spread from the book to your soul card, but they cannot then spread from your soul card to somewhere else. So we'll just shelve this for now, and it will also teach us the skill of spices and savors, and it's written in Aramaic. So luckily we can read that, but for right now we don't need anything from this, so we will just toss it up on the shelf here for now. And then we can collect our soul piece, and we can we can catalog this last Dawn book here. Seconds on work on that. Take advantage of the weather while it lasts, and then I can offer Mr. Kill something to eat, which will increase his aspects, and it's also just friendly. So this will get him to 5 Moon. Which will allow him to start undoing the curse on this abandoned bedroom. A crooning whisper haunts this room. It must have once been luxurious, and will be again once I have it restored, but I will need help to lay the restless presence that drifts here. Next book we found is Each Flame His Fuel, a work by Omar the Blaze, an initiate or craftsmaster at the Labyrinth of Lions. It is Sky 14 Mystery and would teach us more about glazery and lightsmithing, but it is written in Deep Mandaic, a resonant language that we cannot yet speak. So we can toss this up on the shelf again and continue on cataloging with our nocturnal books. And while Mr. Kill is finishing up with his munching, we will call out Mrs. Kill. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. So we can go ahead and put Mr. Kill to work on this abandoned bedroom. And we have recovered our whist. So we'll go ahead and use our metal to do some more work here at the Sweet Bones and get another 6 pence. So we can speak to Mrs. Kill. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. So I think for her, we're going to try and get her to 5... Or let's see, we can probably try and get her to 6 heart if we get a good... well, let's see here. We may actually just go for 3 heart, because we can get that way we can get her to open this weed-choked garden. Depends on what memory she can give us here. If she can give me a solace, that'll open up the garden here. The Open Head. Ilse Bischoff's hallucinatory quasi-documentary, notionally about the Greco-Turkish War of the previous decade, has 8 edge as its mystery, and it is written in Hyksos, a sly language, another language that we don't know. It gives us lessons on disciplines of the scar, and it is a reel of film. So this is what our projector over here is for watching these reels of film. However, since we do not yet know how to read, or in this case, understand Hyksos, that really doesn't do us much good. But once we do learn Hyksos, we will be able to watch that and gain the lessons it knows. So we will continue with our next Nocturnal book. Like, this is one of the advantages to having a maladied piece of soul, is that you can use it to do things like that. Also, it has come to my attention that there is actually one piece of soul that we have not yet seen. So what we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and claim that last piece of soul here. And it is a fairly simple one, but is an action that you don't normally have to do. So we're going to pour out some water here. And then we are going to come over here to the fireplace, and we are going to renounce this in the fire. If I cast an object into the fire, it will be transformed, destroyed, and lost. Use this to dispose of junk or of danger. So that will give us that will take 10 seconds to get rid of that. And this will give us the last piece of soul that we had yet to acquire, which was Arab. Arab is pride, compassion, hatred, and fear. The flames leap up and die away. It also has given us a memory of sight. We might be able to use that to give us to get some lantern. So we will recover our last piece of soul, a piece of Arab. There 'tis, and can be no tizzer. So she's given us a memory of gossip, which would give her Grail and Rose. So we will continue to talk to her and see what else she can give us here. Yeah, I think we can at least get her to 6. Beyond that, I'm not sure. We might be able to open one of these. Well, that would be 2 rows, 4 rows. Do I have anything that else gives 2 more rows? Yes, I do. I could give her this rosehip jam, and she would be able to open this web-snared room. So we'll get started on that after we finish this conversation with her. Opening the Sky. An unusual recording of Varro's Opening the Sky, composed for the coronation of the new king, Henry IX. Well, there's a difference from our reality. Henry IX was not a king. It was not a thing that existed in our world. The record bears the suppression stamp, Expunge. Has Mystery Sky 10, and it would teach us about strings and songs. The harmonies of the lower skies are here reproduced. It's another, as you can see, it is another phonograph record, so we will toss it up here for the moment with our other phonograph records until we find one that we can play it on. Catalog our final Nocturnal period book from around the turn of the century. Alright, Mr. Kill has finished his work, and he has opened up the Severn Chamber. In the days of the dwarfs, this chamber was reserved for the heir of the house, though it was originally furnished for Halfern, the woman of uncertain lineage who became Baron Walter's mother and bequeathed her unusual pale eyes and hair to Walter and his descendants. And we have a bottle of ashertine. So we will bring that down here to our reading area and plop it on the desk. Or actually, we'll plop it on the desk here. And we might as well bring this other piece of bottle of ashertine down. We don't have room on that, so we'll just leave it where it is on the mantelpiece for now. And this room has, finally, our phonograph. Thyrza's phonograph. Thyrza Blake invited a nameless friend, or according to Brankrug tradition, her sister, to Hush House to recover from an illness. Thyrza was uncharacteristically secretive about the whole business, perhaps because her own solicitude embarrassed her. She cooked her guests' meals herself, read to her in the afternoons, and purchased this phonograph so her guest could listen to Viennese opera. The phonograph can be used with Knock, Moon, Heart, or Sky records. There are a few other records in other things, but we'll find ways to deal with them later. We found a knighted chair, solid, comfortable, oddly unobtrusive. A guest bed for the Severn chamber, for those who prefer their mattress soft. This would allow us to keep a Grail-interested guest happy for a period of time. Or we could eventually move our belongings here if we wanted to be able to keep Grail, Moon, Rose, or Heart memories. We have a cup of Veiled Goddess Lapsang Suchong. We have 2 fringed lamps. We have a statue called Abduction Salvation. Either interpretation is possible, and it looks like a man carrying a woman with either Grail or Knock. A moth orchid scented candle, a candle scented with moth orchid, has Knock and moth. And a bedside candle holder to comfort you through the dark hours has Lantern. And we found 3 more books, which we will add to our cataloged pile over here. 2 more Curia books and 1 Baronial book. And we have finished doing our fixing and mending. So we will use our whist to help with letters. Ah, there we go. She's given us a memory of solace. So let's see. If we use the solace, that would get her to 3, which would allow her to open up this weed-choked garden. But we can do that another day as well. I think since we have the rose abilities, we might as well use them. So we will give her this memory of gossip. Then we can use our Fete to give her that. And we have regained our Arab, which gives us 1 edge and 2 Grail. And with that, we now have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 8 pieces of soul, plus the one that's being used in the Sweet Bones. So that is all 9 pieces of our soul that we have collected. And now, as we assign things to the tree later, we'll just get multiples of those. I think what we'll do is we will also do some beachcombing here. What is the sea seeded today? We've found Just Verse, a rare surviving copy of Christopher Illopolis' notoriously unsuccessful volume of experimental poetry, published in 1912. 6 rows, we probably could get to that, but it also is contaminated with Winkwell. Sometimes when I turn this book to the right angle, I see an eye peering at me from its pages or covers. They close and fade when I leave them in the dark, but light will always bring them out eventually. This can affect your Fete and Whist and spread to nearby objects. You can remove it with a skill that's effective against corruption and at least 7 Moon. So the Magaphine Mysteries would be good for that, because we have it is effective against corruption, and it has 2 moon available. So we just would need to find some more moon, and we would be able to cleanse this book. But for now, we will set it over here with our other contaminated book to remind us that these are the contaminated pile. And we'll now catalog a Curia period book from the 1700s to 1800s. Let's see, do any of these, can we read easily enough? Well, we could read that one. We will read an investigation. We'll go ahead and move these up to our bedroom here. So we should be able to, well, listen to this one, an investigation of a foundered country. We can do that tomorrow because it needs 4 moon, and with our tryst and rhyme and remembrance, that would get us 4. Or we could make a confounding parable, which would give us 2, or a memory intuition, which would give us 2. Alright, so we've exalted her with a memory, which gives her 2 rows. We can use our fet. Perhaps we shared a dream, boosts moth and rose. And then we will give her this rose hip jam, which will bring her up to 6 and allow her to clear out this web-snared room. The new room that has opened is a serpent-haunted bedroom. Bright-scaled, watchful snakes lie coiled on every surface. I think some of them might be real. We would need either 6 knock or 6 scale. Next book we found is Ambrosial. Ambrose Westcott's inventive, one might say pioneering, or indeed buccaneering, essays into kitchen craft. 8 forge, and it has spices and savors is what it will teach us about. Yeah, kitchen craft, that kind of fits. Start with cataloging another Curia book. Like I say, I could cure that malady right away, but I might as well make use of it while I have it to catalog all the books I have. So my whist is now tired. I think I will use my foss to get another coin. Because we're running low on cash, so we might as well get as much as we can while we can. My assistant and I have an unspoken understanding. And last, we will give her something to eat. Just to make sure there's nothing else of Rose abilities. Now, this Dawnline coffee would give 1, or Evening Isles coffee would give 1 rose. That's not quite enough. The Blackberry Jam's only 1 rose. Essential Elderflower Cordial is not rose at all. Packages need to be opened, so I think that's what we'll do. We'll start talking to her. We'll give her that, and we will open our box of oddities. A tiny treasury of forgotten things. Perhaps there's a real oddity in here somewhere. So we can use our Arab for that. Something small and curious. Crack open the container and delight in your discovery. The 5 Letters on Memory, Julian Costley's epistolary treatise on matters memorial and mnemonic, addressed to his then friend Claude Hersault, the mystic and antiquarian. 6 winter, and it would teach us more about rhyme and remembrance. Well, that's definitely something we will be able to read, because we already have plenty of winter. So we can put that on the burner for tomorrow. Start another curated book. And let's see. Well, we could talk to her and see one more time. but I think we'll go ahead and get her started working on this web-snared room. The cobwebs here are thick as ivy, clinging to the walls and furniture. Black furred bodies rustle stickily. Van Loren was creative here. Many of the spiders are probably only seemings, but the webs are real, and it'll be long and tiresome work clearing away the webs. So we'll get Mrs. Kill started on that. And we found some whispering sand, white silver sand in which the voice of the waves lingers. It has lantern and 2 moon. It is a material, and it is glass, lucent and fragile. Even sand may some be the eye of the rock. And material, something with the potential to become something, if I put it in something. So let's see what we can do. We have Shapt and Health still left. It is autumn. We could get some more fragrant chalice there. We could get some honey scarred jasmine there. Or I think what we're going to do with our health, we're going to gather some more pears. We also had I don't think we read the description for this room, but this is the Practic Garden. In the early days of St. Brandon's Abbey, the brothers practiced the arts of war here. So it was that in baronial times, the garden became a favorite of the martial, quarrelsome de Wolfs. We have the Practic Garden dummy here. Since the Napoleonic War, he has been punched, thumped, stabbed, and shot by amateurs, by professionals, and by tipsy guests after dinner. No wonder he looks so cross. He doesn't look very happy. He has the ability to craft. It is a crafting station with the ability to use edge, scale, heart, and winter, and it has evolve via illumination, which means once we've assigned something to illumination, we can use it to increase the value of our soul cards at that space if it matches one of those 4 elements. So let's see, we still have our Shapt we can use. Is there anything we can do with Shapt at this point? So Shapt gives us knock and forge. And nothing we can really do with that. We already read that. We've read that. Tomorrow I think we'll probably read the Horus book 2, and we will try and read maybe On Resonance if we can get something with Sky to get us to Sky 6. I also think tomorrow we're going to try and get Mrs. Kill to make the Motley Tower. The Geminiad 3, a fragile manuscript illuminated with twin shapes of sad and luminous beauty, with all the phases of the moon. It might be as old as the 7th century, but the language, Fusine, is much older. Coral decorates its cover, and its page edges are sharp enough to slash a throat. It's written in a dry language called Fusine, which we cannot yet read, and it has a mystery of 12 moth, and would teach us about resurgences and emergences. Birth and death are only directions. Between the two, we find a crossroads. So since we know that this is a series, we will put it on a shelf by itself, because there's obviously 2 more of them lurking around somewhere. Catalog another Curia Period book, and we should have just 1 more to carry us into the next day. Alright, our Faust has been used, and we'll go ahead and use our Shapt to get another 6 pence. And in the container we found another Pale Mummet, which gives us Heart, Moth, and Grail as a tool. So we'll stick that right over the fireplace there. And that's all of our soul fragments for the day. Night has fallen, so let's see. What do we want to take into tomorrow? We could take the Memory Solace. We could take the Savage Hymn. Or we could take the Memory of Fear. I think we'll go ahead and take Memory Solace because we want to get Mrs. Kill up to 6. So we'll go ahead and start and get that saved. The manner in which the alchemist was spared. In 1782, Anel Verdier used this text as the basis for a presentation to the Academy of Sciences in Paris. He was executed in secret the following morning without trial. Oh boy, so this one is another book written in Vac, and it has a mystery of Forge 14, and it is also cursed with Fifth Eye Curse, and it will teach us about Anberry and Lapidary. Lightning is a little life, and jewels are its eyes, so says Eva de Wolf. So we'll put this on our contamination shelf. Finding a lot of Fifth Eye curses. Like I said, luckily those would hit our FET if we tried to use our FET to read that. And Faust, we wouldn't use Faust to read that, but we don't know Vac, so we cannot read that one yet. This one is in Forge, and this would affect FET and Faust, so again, nothing we really need to worry about because we wouldn't use either of those to read this one. But this one, being Winkwell, it would affect FET and Whist, and FET is where our Rose is, so we need to get rid of this Winkwell probably, once we can muster up 7 Moon to throw at it. And just to check, we'd have 2 from Magaphine Mysteries. We would have 1 from our Tryst. And we'd have 2. We could do a memory intuition, so that would get us to 5. We just need to find 2 more somewhere. I think maybe the ink up here. Nope, that has Scale, Lantern, Heart, and Winter. But we could probably make some Catwink. And that would give us some, because Catwink is a moon ink. Alright, so Mrs. Kill has finished her work in the map room. At the turn of the century, Sir David Green, 8th Librarian and former Nocturnal Branch Superintendent, had this room refurbished to plan his explorations and to manage the operations of his many agents. So we have a piece of art of Caer Yis. A spired city is dimly visible through a vast rolling wave. A sacrifice. A silent crowd watches a robed priest drown a struggling victim in a bowl of rainbowed oil. We have a vase of roses, a proud ornament. Green's red chair, a little wobbly. Green used to lean forward. Hallowed anthropoderm. Yes, it's human skin, but it's not just human skin. So this is a heart item, but it also is blank. Come friendly words. We might be able to do something with that later. And we have a new tool, the lunar globe. It's the Earth, but silvered like the moon, unlabeled and pocked with craters. This gives us another moon and a piece of rose that we can use for something. We have a bottle of Catwink. The smell of Catwink puts off vermin, but it is very difficult to read in sunlight. An ink of containment. Has Edge, Grail, 2 Moon, and 2 Scale. Plus we've also found 3 more Curia books to catalog. So we'll bring those down here to our cataloging shelf. And since we now have some Catwink, we can take our Winkwell book, Just Verse, because we should be able to, I think we can get to 6 rows fairly easily. So we'll come over here to the Eva desk. Oh, we're going to need to wait for the next morning for our Tryst to roll up. Speaking of, so we can throw Just Verse in here. We can add the Catwink. We can add our Tryst. And we can add Magaphine Mysteries. And then we just need a moon memory. So we finished with this cataloging. An Almanac of Entrances. A handbook of sealed and unsealed byways and shortcuts through the bounds, compiled by William Harries in the 1860s, during his term as Librarian of Hush House. has knock 10, and it will teach us about the Edict's Liminal, which we already have, so that will be helpful for that. So we'll throw that on our to-read area here and get started on this baronial book. Gives me another 6 pence, which brings me back to a half crown, a 3 pence, and a 2 pence. Alright, so our goal for the day was to try and get Mrs. Kill, so we'll go ahead and hire Mrs. Kill. Actually, instead of the core, because we're going to need the heart from that, we can use our Arab because we need the grail is what brings her out. And we have some hail. Ice wraps on the roofs and treetops. It's 3 edge and 3 sky. We can probably use that to read a book. So we'll go ahead and get started with Mrs. Kill here. Unusual to get hail in the autumn, but there you go. And we'll start talking to her about the core. We'll collect our Memory of Solace. And we will collect our pears. Smooth as butter and wonderfully juicy. So we can put those here on the shelf. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so we need, so let's see, what do we have the edge we can use for? We have, that's a little beyond us. We could read The High Traditions of the Noble Endeavor, or we could read Exorcism for Girls, or we could read De Bellis Mororum. This would be Disciplines of the Scar, Sickle and Eclipse, or Disciplines of the Hammer. I think what we will go for then, these are all red over here, yep. Oh, we also have De Horus Book 2 we could read, which would give us Disciplines of the Hammer. So, but while we have that 3, we might as well try and read a 6. Yeah, because we can do 6 with Auroral Contemplations. So we'll do Exorcism for Girls. Oh, and we have a new desk over here, the Desk Vagabond, an elegant relic repurposed by Green for his small and secret war. And this is an edge, knock, rose, and scale desk. So we can throw Exorcism for Girls in there, and we could throw anything we want in there because we're going to use the Hail and the Auroral Contemplation. So we just need to provide any piece of soul because we're already at 6. So we don't need to use our metal. We could use our fet there, because otherwise I don't think we're not going to need it because we're going to spend most of the day cleaning off the Winkwell from here. So I can master this mystery. And also Auroral Contemplations with 5 edge gives us the Torg's Cleansing, which we can make later. So we'll go ahead and start reading Exorcism for Girls. And then we can use our Faust here. So we need something with moon. Well, we know that 108 here gives us a confounding parable, which gives us 2 moon. So we'll start rereading that. We found Kitling Ripe's tasty treats. The velvet is the hour of secrets, so very little is known of the Mothlong, Nectarlong, who ascended to immortality under her auspices. But this book, by Kitling's friend, purports to be part cookbook and part manual for immortality. 4 nectar, and it would teach us spices and savors. So I think what we'll do is, since this is a winter book, we'll go ahead and throw it on the shelf over here at the winter desk. And I think, so what we'll do, we'll go ahead and start cataloging the next book. And I think we have enough nectar So we have Rites of the Roots, which gives us 2, and we have the Bronze Knife, which gives us 2. So we can actually go ahead and read Kittling Ripe's Tasty Treats. We can use our Tryst for that. Oh, but we need something. We cannot use the knife. We would need something else. So we'll hold off on that for now. We'll just throw that into our to-read pile. My assistant and I are both a little merrier. I will then talk to her about this memory solace. The Geminiad 1. A fragile manuscript illuminated with twin shapes of sad and luminous beauty, and with all the phases of the moon. It might be as old as the 7th century, but the language, Fusine, is much older. The cover is tooled goatskin, decorated with garnet. Again, it's written in Fusine, just like the third one. It has a mystery of 10 heart, and it would teach us about weaving and knotworking. He 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 he. He. Valentine de Wolf. Well, if that isn't a little silly. So we'll stick it here next to the third volume. Maybe one of these other two will give us the second volume, and we'll complete the set. Alright, we have our confounding parable. So now we can come back over here to our to our Eva's desk. We can add our Winkwell book, our Catwink, a confounding parable, our Tryst, and Magaphine Mysteries to suppress Winkwell corruption. The softest edge of the velvet's cloaking darkness, invoked carefully through the black flower of the watchman's tree, is a certain cure for Winkwell. So that will take us a minute to get that done. And then we just need to give her the mixing bowls, which will get her to Heart 6, and she will be able to open the next room of the Motley Tower up here. Yes, I could have just given her the Skin Shuck mead and been done with it in one, but we need that mead to cure our... We're going to hold that to cure our core later on. The Berry Book. Thirza Blake, 7th Librarian of Hush House, talks about fruit. For no other apparent reason than it is the kind of thing she did. She talks about fruit in the woven language Kilisimi. So yet another Kilisimi book that we're not going to be able to read just yet. So we'll stick that on our shelf with the other Kilisimi books. And catalog our final Curia period book here. Tool has boosted their aspects appropriately. Let's go ahead and spend one cycle talking to her and see if she can give us a memory we'll be able to use elsewhere. And then we can put her to work opening the next floor of the Motley Tower. A nasty theoplasmic miasma hangs around the room above. It's no longer strong, but it'll take years to dissipate to the point of safety. With the right help, I can raise counter-influences. Alright, she's given us a memory satisfaction, Grail and Heart. We might be able to use that. But for now, we will put her to work opening up the tower. There have been many theories about what Winkwell is and why, but the Velvet is an hour of secrets, and if we questioned her too closely, she might withdraw her protection. The Winkwell contamination has been removed. So we can finish up that. And that is how contaminations get removed from books. So since this is a Rose book, we will be placing it here because this is our Rose area. And we have finished reading Exorcism for Girls. Simple but forceful techniques for rousting unbefitting spirits, written in straightforward and colorful language. Blake seems uncertain at points whether the techniques are intended for use by or on girls. She clearly regards children as a nuisance. Theirs was definitely a weird one, we'll put it at that. Even among the librarians, she was rather eccentric, it seems. Thyrza's advice on the shapeless wood things known as raw prophets is typically practical. 1. Discourage them with buckets of water as close as possible to freezing, and with the smoke of dried lemongrass. 2. Under no circumstances kiss them or receive kisses from them. 3. An effective formula is provided for laundering clothes stained with prophet slime. So we can put this onto our red shelf here. And it has given us a lesson on Sickle and Eclipse and a Memory Fear. So again, we can mark that with Memory Fear to remind us that that's what it gives. And let me see. So we can go ahead and we can start learning Sickle and Eclipse. Use this lesson to acquire a new skill. And we have found a novel method for invocation and contrition. Ingenious and rather beautiful techniques for entreating the names of the hours, developed by Rory Morrow, who styled himself the Sage Knight. It is written in Ericapean, an elegant language, again one we do not know yet, Mystery Rose 14, and it would teach us about preliminal meter, 9 modes, 9 horizons, the subtle rhythms of words which open ways. So we can stick that onto our shelf here of stuff we can't read just yet, and all of our books are now cataloged. So let's see, is there anything we can do with our whist, our metal, or a plagued core? So we have edge and scale. This metal gives us another edge. So actually we can go ahead and we can read De Horus now, because we can use Auroral Contemplations and Metal to master this mystery. And I think, so let's see, Memory Fear gives us 2 scale. This is 6, so that would be 2, 4. Ah, yes, so that's what we will do. Here's another good use for using a plagued. So we can take that and we can reread Singlefoot songs and get our Savage Hymn out. Just in case it asks us for a memory, and we can start reading the Encircling Tantra here. Scale buried. Perhaps you've provided a scale, but not enough to match mystery scale. If you're lucky, you might still succeed. So let's see, is there a scale tool somewhere? I don't think we've uncovered a scale tool yet, just some art. Oh, right. Actually, we're not going to need that. I forgot. We have this bottle of Prohibate up here. So this gives us the last 2 scale. We need to bring it to scale unearthed. I can master this mystery. So this will teach us about horns and ivories, the hunter, the way, and their memories. I knew there was something I was planning to do with that Prohibate. Okay. I don't think any else of this is within reading range right now. We've acquired Sickle and Eclipse, Salt and Silver, Balance, Necessity, and Rebuke. 2 Edge and 1 Moon. We can use it in Nyctodromy or Preservation, and it is effective against corruption, so it's another corruption, just like Magaphine Mysteries. Again, it also has Moon, so not as much as Magaphine does, though, so it's decent, but it's not perfect for curing Winkwell. Don't think we have anything else we can do right now. Just wait for these things we've got going to finish. Okay, so we actually, and this is another good thing, is even though we used it to read a book that we did for a memory we're not going to need right now, we don't lose the soul piece, so we can still read something else if we needed to. So like we could, let's see here, what all do we have that we might be able to read? Okay, so that actually, we will time that a little bit better this time, because we will time it so that it finishes just after we finish going over to the next day. And we are done with the encircling tantra. The explorer and entrepreneur T. Everett Duplantis once attempted to plunder the temple where this text was held. His fate is recorded in an appendix. The encircling tantra speaks of the Serpent Gate, the hungry portal sometimes known as the Spider's Door, which is sacred to the Mother of Ants, through which the great hooded princes pass. The tantra includes an invocation, but cautions, helpfully, that the invocation is of insufficient power to reach the Serpent Gate from the Hunter's Gate. A road which has no destination is itself a destination, it adds helpfully. And this has taught us a memory of fear and the lesson on horns and ivories. So again, we can take, and we're getting quite a lot of books that teach us a memory of fear. And we will throw this back in our library here on the red side to remind us that it's done. We'll probably get to the incandescent tantra fairly soon. And we have read De Horis Book 2. In Latin, a 19th century reprint by the indefatigable Nathaniel Darcy Evers of a 14th century Latin translation of a 4th century work. This volume deals mostly with the hour called Lionsmith, the hour called the Tribune of Scars, and with their enmity. The Lionsmith makes monsters to defeat the Tribune, but the scars of the Tribune are each a weapon. We can put that back on its shelf here. And we've learned the lessons of disciplines of the hammer and a memory of foresight. So, we're actually going to try and be a little clever here, I think. Let's see, where are my forge books? So we have 8, that would be 2, that would be 4, that would be 6. Getting the last 2 is the trick. And I think for now we'll hold on to that. We'll start learning horns and ivories. Excuse me while I'm pondering just a few things here. So, I think what we can do... we can take a little bit of a chance here. So we're going to rest our metal. And we are going to attempt to read... not ambrosial, because that we will attempt to read the incandescent tantra, because this will allow us to level up transformations and liberations, which will get us another point of forge, which will make it easier for us to read stuff in the future. And for now, we'll just take this bottle of sand and toss it on the desk here. And we have a new room we've opened up. The Motley Tower Dispensary. This room may have originally served as a working dispensary, but some at least of its more eccentric fittings were added by Christopher Illopoli in his time here. By that point, he had severed ties with his adoptive father. He'd been using the Illopoli name for years and had no access to the Strathcone fortune. but traveling at night had sold surprisingly well, much better than his poetry, and he had a little money of his own by then, enough to indulge his preferences. So we have a pretty well-stocked little room here. We have some lethe, a dark and syrupy liquor favored in unnamed forest villages, 2 nectar, 2 scale, 2 grail, and 4 moth. A mortar and pestle, crush. A tool that gives us forge and nectar. Ichor auroral, no dawn knows only a single color, no sky knows only a single dawn. 4 lantern and 2 rose, and it is also a pigment. Call it a color, call it a stain, call it a jewel in waiting. There's as cordials. Separately, each is undrinkable, but mix them and they're only undrinkable after 15 minutes. A restorative beverage that has 2 moth and 2 nectar. We might be able to make use of that later, especially if we need something with nectar to give to people, or moth. A chalice of Lambig Broccolande, which again we have a bottle of downstairs, gives grail and 2 nectar. Some desiccated witchworms, nasty little things, but almost safe when they're this dead. So a material and remains that give us 2 knock and 2 scale. A Scaptodon fang. It is rare for the lionsmith to make Scaptodons now, but they are difficult to kill, and they live a very long time. 2 edge and 2 scale. Iotic essence. In the latter operations of the forge, the madrigad yields to the true forge of days, and the essence begins to redden. The bit about the true forge of days nearly got St. Melanch burned for heresy, but no one ever said she was wrong about the second part. A liquid that has 5 forge and 3 lantern, and is also a pigment, and is a fuel. Each hour has its color, each flame has its fuel. Don't trust your dreams. George Collars, first and last governor of Brandcrook Jail. Glassfinger toxin. What is within, without. What is without, within. A poison sacred to the votaries of the Miniscate. 2 forge, 2 lantern, and 4 knock. So another thing of lethe. Some lethe lees, the dark aftermath of a dark drink. It is a material that has grail, moth, nectar, and scale. A tall candlestick. And at last we have a scale tool, the serpent-styled glass. Carved snakes writhe down the frame. A prominent inscription reads, "To the Librarian Gervinus in earnest of our wager." A sly alembic, a cheeky decanter of wine fortified with unusual influences. 3 heart and 3 grail. Some domain raveline, which we've seen before. Some spice, another tool, some spice scales. Gives us another grail tool to go along with our bronze knife. And it is something we can use down in the kitchens because it has the spicing ability. Tool or knowledge might be used to add more exotic savors to things. So what we'll do, we'll go ahead and take that and bring it down to the kitchen, because that's where it needs to live. Let's see, actually, we need to rearrange things a little bit here for that. There we go, it can live on the shelf right there. We've also found some more catwink and a wolf snow ampule, far too cold to ever to melt in anything but the hottest noonday sun. It will, very gradually, consume human flesh. If we need some winter liquid, well, we've found it there. We have a cranial tchotchke, and we found one of those before, and a glinting cranial tchotchke. This one has rose rather than winter, so maybe there's something special about it, but for right now, leaving it as rose is probably for the best. Another moth tool, finally. Shears of the Sisterhood. Black iron shears marked with the Sisterhood's triple knot. We've also found a viper egg, a serpent in waiting. Ichor vitreous, a pale and watchful fluid that can be gathered sometimes when the door in the eye is opened. Westcott's compounds, Reagents and activants to enhance alchemical operations or the flavor of one's pipe tobacco. 2 forge, grail, lantern, and moth and nectar, so that's fairly useful little reagent sometimes. And the ichor vitreous is a pigment with 4 lantern. Bitter black salts. Bitter as chicory, dark secrets, but the first rung of the traditional alchemical ascent. Just straight up 1 forge. January sanguinary, also called sanguis saltandus, or by the ignorantly superstitious, the true blood of Saint Janarius. 5 heart, 3 knock, and 3 wind and 3 sky. Some tanglebrag, a clod of wood, leaves, and feathers that might draw the attention of the entity called Knotwing Knot. Lantern, moth, and nectar, and scale. And finally, a snoodle jar, useful for calcination, purification, alteration, invaluable for snoodlery, whatever snoodlery is. And this is another tool that has moth and lantern on it. And we also have a workstation, the dispensary, a well-appointed laboratory for a scholar of unconventional therapies. So we can add matter and substance. We can add a flower or remains. And here we can add a fuel, a liquid, or remains. And we can use nectar, knock, moth, or heart there. And we've also found 5 more books, so we'll bring those down to our cataloging area. And put them on our catalog shelf here. So we'll get started by cataloging the first Curia period book there. Musgrave's Sketches. Musgrave, 4th Baron Brankrug, was widely mocked as the Bleating Baron and the Lamb de Wolf, but these sketches reveal a complex, somber inner life. 8 Winter. We'll hold on to that. I think we might be able to read that in a very near future. And we have learned Horns and Ivories, The Hunter, The Way, and Their Memories. 2 scale and 1 knock. Can be assigned to Bosk or Skolakoscopy. So now we can acquire Disciplines of the Hammer. Should be just about done at the Sweet Bones. So our metal has been refreshed. So this desk can take Forge, so we will start reading the Incandescent Tantra. We'll use our Memory of Foresight, we will use our metal, and our Transformations and Liberations. Plus, since we found those scales, we can use that to add 1 more point of Forge. Wait, no, those wrongs. So scales give Grail, I need Forge. Mortar and pestle, that's what I was thinking. So that brings us to 7, so we'll just need to find 1 more point of Forge. Which we should be, yeah, we have plenty of things here that give us Forge. So as long as it asks for an item or a thing, we should be able to use, we can use these bitter black salts. And we will drop Musgrave Sketches over here with 5 letters of on memory, because those are both winter books, so we should be able to read those fairly soon. Let's see, just to scan these in case, let's see, does any of these give me something with Forge? Oh, Lady Eva's Repose. So what we can do is... This is almost finished here. Yes. We found the Chandler's Wish. Formulae and instructions invoking Moth Lantern and, exceptionally and paradoxically, the liminal and theoretical hour called the Chandler. The author is anonymous, admitting only that they are one who is not yet nameless. 12 Lantern, and it teaches us about the inks of revelation, the inks in which the histories are revealed. So we'll throw that on our shelf. And now we can come back here and we can grab Lady Eva's Repose, which will give us a memory with 1 forge, in case it asks us for a memory to finish reading that book. And we have learned Disciplines of the Hammer. To purify and combine the selves and the essences, the hammer shapes gates and shatters doors, within us and without. 2 edge, 1 forge, and can be assigned to Illumination or Nyctodromy. And I suppose now is as good a time as ever, because we do finally have a ink that we do not need right off the bat. We can come in here and we can grab our writing case. So let's see, our writing case, we can write to Chima, because we knew both of these have a language that we would like to learn. We can write to Chima and we need 3 edge for her. We need Arthur, we need at least 3 lantern. And Serena, I think, also knows a language that we would like to learn. She would need 3 forge. So I think the easiest one to get is going to be Shima, because we can use Auroral Contemplations for that. And we could actually use that for both Arthur and Shima. But we will call out Chima to Brankrug. Now I just need to post it. To the esteemed Lala Shima. And we will put our writing case back where it goes. And then we can come over to the post office. The postmistress keeps the gate to the wider world. In her left hand is the lightning, which is to say the telegraph, and in her right the thunder, which is to say the only telephone in Brankrug. Before her lies the cash register, which accepteth the greater currency and returneth its lesser children. So we can post our invitation to Chima. Patience. Thus the mountain awaits the fall of the snow, thus Monday awaits the death of the weekend, thus the postmistress waits for me to purchase the necessary stamp. Stamp, envelope, send. The postmistress examines the letter and deems it sufficient. It'll go with the next post, she assures me. So Lala will arrive in 1 minute, and then we can start learning. See, what language is it she can teach us? She can teach us Cracktrack. A primal language. We don't have any books that are in Cracktrack just yet, but I'm sure we'll find one sooner or later. And after we've done with her, we can hopefully make some more ink, some catwink, and call up Arthur or Serena to teach us their languages. Oh, and just for reference, the last door that we have up here is the 3rd floor of the Motley Tower. The theoplasmic miasma that hung around the room below is a little stronger here and a little different, with a rotten, musky scent that suggests a decaying reptile house. Perhaps something laired here after the inhabitants departed. Perhaps the inhabitants dreamed unwisely. In any case, the right counter-influences will dispel it. So we'll come back over to here. So just to finish, we'll just finish reading up this. Ooh, a storm. Thunder roaring, lightning lashed skies. 4 heart and 4 sky. That will definitely make it much easier, because we can probably unlock one of these rooms over here. Yeah, unlocking this unlocked the dim hall. The walls are hung with weapons. As I assay the threshold, a whisper trembles in the still air, and a pair of wall-hung swords glints menacingly. More of Van Loren's protections. They seem much stronger on the seaward than the landward side of the house. One might begin to wonder if they were intended to protect against outsiders at all. Need 8 edge or 8 grail, so Mrs. Kill would be able to help with that, or we could work with Denzel for that. But I think what we'll try and do is we'll try and get her maybe up to 8, so we can get her to open up the wounded room or the maze crazed room, because Storm would give us 4, Core would give us 6, 7. Yeah, we could get her to 8 easily. So we'll go ahead and we will start with the procession to call her out. And I know we're running a little bit long today, but I feel like finishing up Autumn while I have. So we got our memory regret, and let's see what extra thing. So it's going to need either soul or epiphany. So unfortunately, we don't have another metal to throw at this, but hopefully the epiphany will give us the last piece of forge that we need. If it doesn't, well, we can try again another day. Oh, wait. We do have our shaft. Shaft gives us the last piece. I forgot that shaft has forge. Oops, that almost screwed that up. So we'll use our core to bring her to 7. Did Shima receive my invitation? Shima incoming. So she has interest in edge and rose, and since we gave her an edge book last time, her edge has gone up by 1 point. But she'll hang around for a few minutes while we finish what we were working on. 2 more lessons for transformations and liberations. And we have gained back another memory of foresight. So we will mark the incandescent tantra. Michael Blockley, the eccentric iron magnate, was fond of quoting from this tantra. Blockley died in a factory fire. Dialogues with an entity called the Crucible Prince. The prince warns about the appetites of his mistress, the Burning Queen, and the peril of the naked desire she shares with the sun, but professes his loyalty nonetheless. A rite which changes is necessarily a rite which destroys, but a great change requires a destruction of savage extent. So we can go ahead and we can mark this with memory foresight, just to remind ourselves that that's what it gives, and throw it back on our shelf over here. And we can use that memory of foresight to level up transfigurations and liberations, transformations and liberations. And we can use our Fet for that, because we need either Moth or Forge, and Fet gives us Moth. And lastly, we can give Mrs. Kill the Bowls to bring her to 8 heart. And while we were doing that, we were going to look at... Right, we're going to look at the phonograph and try and listen to a investigation of a foundered country. We have our Tryst, gives us 1 moon. And Rhyme and Remembrance gives us the other 4, or the rest of the 4, so we can match this mystery. Moon, a culmination. So we'll go ahead and start listening to that. Skill is now level 2. We have 3, so it gives us 3 Forge and 2 Moth. And then we will need 1 more memory out of that. So what we can do is we can reread the Incandescent Tantra to get another foresight out of it, because we already have this memory regret that we made. Alright, so Mrs. Kill is ready. And as you can see, there are several rooms that she would be available to open up today, but since she's already at 8, we'll use her to open up one of these rooms over here. We'll use the Maze Crazed room for now. Wires are strung tightly and crazily through this room, snaring the bed legs to the window latches to the wardrobe handles. Every movement brings a ripple of musical pings. It'll need time and patience to unravel. We'll get her started on that. And now we can talk to Lala. There are things I need to know. We can offer her a consultation. And we can offer her a spintrier, and she will teach us tutoring crack-track. My visitor can teach me the rudiments of this primal language that we rather underwhelmingly call crack-track, because there is no name for that language in that language. After tutoring you, the visitor will leave, even if they arrived on other business. Okay, so that was our phonograph ticking over to the second half of listening to it. A lot of cues in this game are very audible, so you have to, if you listen close sometimes you can figure out what's going on. So we will grab our transformations and liberations, and again this time you'll see we need 2 memories. So we have memory regret and memory foresight. We can apply that. And let's see, unfortunately we need another soul card. So we can rest our fet. Luckily we have a tuppence. And that will get us transformations and liberations to 3, which will bring us up to 4 forge and 3 moth. And this is a skill with channelry, so we could use it to make candles with that lump of beeswax that we have in the kitchen, in the pantry. And there was our room finished opening. Servants' quarters south. When Hendrik de Wolf left behind the life of mercenary, he appointed his quartermaster as head of his new household. This would have drawn little comment, except that his quartermaster was a woman, the soft-spoken, steely-willed Ernestine Peterhans. We've heard that name before somewhere, in one of the books probably. For more than 5 decades, these rooms were her unchallenged domain. Even in her 80th year, she still walked her rounds every day, and the servants would fall silent at the distant jingle of her keys. So we have 4 beds here in the servants' quarters, and they are able to take forge, nectar, scale, and heart. Narrow but comfortable. We could also use them to park a guest with heart. We have a slim parcel and some contraband jetsam that we can open, and another basket of clean linen that we can use to rest with. It also has heart as well. So that's all for that room. Not much there, but we might be able to use it. It also has a widow's candle, lighted in remembrance. So Lala has taught us how... I've learned enough to puzzle out books in this language, though it might be slow going. We've learned crack-track. In the tracks of beasts, in the convolutions of his own carapace, in egg vein and shell shadow, the many-eyed one found the signs which can be history. 2 nectar, scale. It's a language we can use to read at particular books, among other much less important things, and it can be assigned to illumination or preservation. This is kind of what I was waiting for here, is because now we have a language, and languages generally we're not going to want to improve right off the bat, so we can assign crack-track to level 1 here, or to level 1 here. We can assign it here to learn about a tongue of earth. Crack-track is the native tongue of the living world. As long as crack-track is spoken, in cloud shape and hill form, life persists. This is a matter of preservation, and it would give us another piece of core. Or we could assign it to illumination. A tongue of sky. Crack-track was a gift from the light above the world. When glory touched the first life motes with this language, they entered the waking world. They were illuminated. And it would give us another piece of Faust. But, as you can see, we do have a few things here. So, this would open up the next level of illumination. But if we come down here and assign it to preservation, not only would we get another piece of core, which we tend to be using quite a lot recently, it would allow us to jump to the second level for Bosk because of this dotted line here. So I think that's what we're going to do. We are going to assign it to preservation and collect our core. So we now have an extra piece of core that we can use to help to bring Mrs. Kill into play, or to read a book or something. Alright, so now this desk is free again, so we can go back to using our Duendratic core to catalog a book, a baronial book from the 1500s to 1700s. And let's see, check in at the Sweet Bones. Another few seconds there. And we finished listening to this record, subtitled, An Investigation of a Founded Country, subtitled Recordings from the Atlantic Coast. The phonograph initially seems to consist entirely of wave sounds and the cries of gulls, but attention to the cries suggests they are not gulls at all, perhaps not even birds. The bird cries resolve to possibly human voices, half lost in the sound of waves. They lament the absence of a city unborn. They hymn the ice behind the wave, the amber cobbles, or perhaps amber corals. The tenor of their song is melancholy, but also increasingly menacing, as they promise the city irresistible. As the voices fade, distant bells are clearly to be heard among the surf sounds. Well, that's fairly ominous. It has given us Memory, a Stolen Secret, To Moon, and Knock. And another lesson on Hill and Hollow. So what we can do now, we will remember that that's what it gives us. We will mark it with Memory, a Stolen Secret. That one's a bit of a rarer memory, so we're probably going to be using that. And we'll put it up here to remind us that we've listened to that one. The other ones will need Deep Mandaic for that one, and this one we need 10 Sky, which we're quite a ways away from now. Alright, so that Hill and Hollow lesson, we are still waiting for our Fett to finish at the Sweet Bones, but we can use Hill and Hollow because it is a scale and moon. We can use the Stolen Secret memory, and we can use our health to level Hill and Hollow up to level 2. There's always more to learn. There's our Fett, so as soon as that's done, we'll be able to level up Transformations and Liberations. And the next book we found is The World Despoiled, subtitled The Flowers in the Waste, an epic poem that presents a medical treatise through allegory. The author is Gideon de Wolf, 5th Baron Brankrug, sometimes unkindly called the Cutter. Which also reminds me, since we just got a hint, so we were told Musgrave de Wolf was the 6th Baron Brankrug. So we can come and drop him. Actually, no, he was the 4th Baron Brankrug. So we can drop him here. We haven't found the one for the other yet. And we still don't know where Fraser Strathclyde goes, although we know he was one of the librarians. Skill is now level 2. So it gives us 2 scale and 3 moon. And now we can add Transformations and Liberations. And our Fett. Now, I'm no expert, but I'm no dabbler either. Improve this skill to level 3. And so we have a Moon 6 book. So what we can do here, we can rest our Tryst. And while that's processing, we can come over here. What does not bark? Alexander Probst writes warily of Calyptra, a law, principle, or society that prevents the dissemination of dangerous knowledge. 4 Moon, and it teaches about the Edicts Inviolable. Well, we'll be able to read that pretty soon, but I think we're going to want to try and read this World Despoiled because it gives us another Magafine Mysteries, which would give us another few points of Moon and some more Heart because we don't have any other skills that teach Heart right now. But, so to do that, we will need some more Moon, so we can reread 108 and get another Confounding Parable for that. Transformations and Liberations is now level 3. 4 Forge, 3 Moth. So let's see, what else do we have here that we might be able to use before the day runs out? This will be the last day of autumn, so at the end of this day, I think we'll go ahead and call this a day. Night has fallen, dawn will come soon. There's our tryst. We can throw our Faust in here and get another 6 pence back. So now we can come to our desk, our Eva desk here. We can do that. And the tryst, well, actually we're going to need to wait a few more seconds for that. There we go. And this has Moon, so we can use this desk. So World Despoiled. Tryst gives us 1. Rhyme and Remembrance gives us up to 4. And Confounding Parable gets us to 6. I can master this mystery, so this will allow us to level Magafine Mysteries up to another level. And I think that is probably going to be a good point to stop for the day because we are just about out of time and the day is almost over. So, again, thank you for joining me. It has been a pleasure. And if you've enjoyed what you've been watching, please feel free to like, leave a comment, or subscribe. And I will see you next time. Thank you for joining me.